What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Igniting Hope Radio Podcast. I am your host, Sherman Webb-Middlebrooks, a lifelong Buffalo resident and full-time Black man. And today, I have the privilege of being joined by two special guests this time. The wonderful LuAnne Brown, leader over there at Buffalo Prenatal-Perinatal, and the awesome Yvonne DuBois, who also works over there at Buffalo Prenatal-Perinatal. You try to say that 3 or 4 times fast and see if you're able to do it.
Yvonne, tell them where you work. You don't work with me. You want to work with me.
I'm the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer at Child and Family Services.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so this is usually why I like to let folks introduce themselves, because there might be some things that I leave out and things that I get mixed up. So if you do want to just elaborate a little bit more on your job title, we'll start with you, Yvonne. Just tell a little bit of specifically about the work that you're doing, and then we'll move over to LuAnne as well.
Sure. So as the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, I focus largely on just making sure that all of the people who interact with our agency, all of our staff, all of our clients, vendors, even anyone who interacts with us feels protected, respected, welcomed, leveraged, that they're seen and treated as whole human beings. And that's the really simplified version. There are a lot of things that go into that, but that is really what I do.
Awesome. So we need folks that are advocating for people who are in situations like that. So thank you for doing that work. I think a lot of times the work that we do in community is thankless. We don't get enough thank yous. At least I don't hear enough thank yous. I'm like, oh, you didn't tell that person thank you. Okay, all right. Nobody tells each other thank you in this work. So just want to create, a shift in the culture of doing that. So LuAnne, I am very familiar with your work. I've had the privilege of working with your men's health with your men's initiative and the good brother Antoine Johnson, and Terry and Mike and all those good brothers. So I also owe you a thank you for leading and supporting the Nurturing Fathers program and that initiative, just because it's personally has benefited my life, having the privilege of going through that while my daughter was like 2 years old. Because it didn't give me as a young dad at 25 a guidebook on how to be a dad when I left the hospital. They just said, you got a car seat? Okay, if you will wear a coat, put a coat on her. Bye. And so that was like all I had as a young 25-year-old, just, with a kid now who's looking at me to take care of her for the rest of her life. And so really just thanking you, because there was no program. And so you really believe in that dads and men needed the support. So I know you do a whole lot of other things at that organization, but personally, your work has impacted my life and I've benefited from it. So I owe you a thank you.
Yes, and we appreciated you, Sherman, just because, you were one of the first joiners when we started. But Buffalo Prenatal-Perinatal Network. So I'm the CEO there. And besides the wonderful fatherhood program. So our primary focus is reducing infant mortality and low birth weight infants. So we have 2 women's programs. They're home visiting programs, and they are free and they are voluntary. Do you want me to go into the whole spiel, Sherman, or just?
Sure. While we got the audience, you never know who's listening and who might be able to benefit.
Right. Yeah. So Healthy Families New York is one of the programs, and that is a program that moms can stay with us for 5 years. We work with pregnant and parenting moms, mostly on the east and west side of Buffalo, primarily with African American and Hispanic moms, because unfortunately they have the worst outcomes. Healthy Families does go a little farther out. They do South Buffalo, Cheektowaga, Lackawanna, a little bit of Tonawanda, and a little bit of Hamburg. So they engage with the mom wherever we find them. It could be a health fair. It could be the waiting room of a prenatal clinic. Talk to her if she's interested. We screen them, assign them a worker, and then we manage them for however long they stay with us. And that program focuses on parenting, child development, prevention of child abuse and neglect, and also, because they're with us so long, self-sufficiency, whether that's going back to school or going to work. The community health worker programs or other programs, same population, but they're kind of looking for the woman that's not connected to the system. So they actually do street outreach. Probably get, when the weather's nice in Buffalo, but they probably get about 60% of their referrals. So they just go into the neighborhoods, they knock on the doors. Anybody pregnant, they give their cards out. So it's a pretty vulnerable. They also go to train stations, bus stations. We found a woman last year living in her car with her 2-year-old. So the first thing they do in this program is make sure, they have health insurance and a provider. And we really have to work with them on the social determinants of health, which everyone knows there's, it's housing, it's food, it's baby basics, because we really can't talk to them about health until they know where they're sleeping that night or if they have food for their kids. So we spend a lot of time on that. And then we really start, once we've got them kind of stable, then we will start to work on health education, advocacy. Both the programs screen for substance abuse, domestic violence, and depression. And again, the majority of our work is done in the homes, but we do support groups at the agency. We have a baby cafe for our breastfeeding moms. We do educational groups. We have 2 empowerment groups now for our moms with depression that is run by a mental health counselor. And then we do a lot of, Healthy Families does a lot of events around the holidays. So we bring the kids in like for Easter and Halloween and Christmas, and try to show them there's things in the community they can do that are not too expensive. So that's a quick run through.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you running down all of that because I'm only familiar with a few of the programs. Again, the men's program, and then also the program. I know I pretty much refer any woman, especially any young woman that comes to me saying, "Hey, Sherman, I know you work with the dads, and I know you work with the teens and the young people, but like I need support. Is there anything for me?" And I'm like, "Wow, I'm a dad." But just knowing that you guys have the support and have the resources, it does feel good to be able to tell people, "Oh, how old is your baby? Okay, cool. They ain't 5 yet. All right, I know the perfect program to refer you to that'll help get you situated." Because I think a lot of times, or at least the approach that I take to this work, because I have been blessed. We're dysfunctional but functional, but we're a large family and we love each other. And so I understand that I've been privileged to have like 6 uncles and my dad. And so like a lot of times the approach and conversations that I have with young people is like, wow, my uncle talked to me about this, or my big cousin talked to me about this, or my auntie talked to me about this. And it's like these young people and people in general sometimes need us to step in and be pseudo family members. And I think essentially like that's kind of like the approach that I take. I'm a pseudo family member in this job. And I think a lot of folks just kind of need that support. So thank you guys for providing that. So you mentioned, LuAnne, social determinants of health. And here at the Buffalo Center for Health Equity, that is at the core of our work. We focus on all aspects of social determinants of health, but we also focus on health equity. And so I think there needs to be some degree of consumer education. Folks don't really know what the word equity is still. So we're still trying to define that in the community and make it a common part of people's language. So we'll start again with Yvonne. So what is health equity and what does health equity look like to you in your work and just in your life in general?
Yeah. So this is a great question, and it kind of evolves the deeper I get into this work, especially working with child and family services, where there are a range of programs that we offer across the life spectrum of a person. So, health. First of all, let's start with health because people think, I think people think health is just like, you exercise and you eat vegetables, right? And like,
Right.
you're healthy. But health is every realm of your life. It's all of the ways that you exist and you move through the world. So health is really being able to access the greatest, the highest self, right? The best version of yourself. And that's not just physical health, that's mental and emotional health. That is your relationship health, not only with partners, but with your family, with your child, with your friendships. Health is community. Financial health, right? Being able to have access when you have emergencies to like a little extra capital when your car break down, or not worrying
Amen.
about like how you're going to pay the light bill. That's health too. And those are so that's the conversation that moves into social determinants of health, right? So like, how many trees are in your neighborhood? How often are you accessing green space? Can you see the sky? Can you breathe? Are you living near an expressway? Right? All of that is the picture of what health could be and what ultimately what your life looks like. And then that moves us into health equity, which is ensuring that no matter what you look like, where you come from, what your background is, that you have access in equal measure, just like every other person in your community and the community across the road, that you can all access clean air and water, that you can all access healthy food options, that you can that no matter where you are, you have access to mental health care, that you have access to the fruits and vegetables and the exercise, right? And that you have
Yeah.
access to the education that can support you throughout your life. That's it's so much bigger than the conversation that we typically have around.
Listen, I love that. All of that explanation. I'm sitting here, I'm like, is she running for office or something? Because that was that. Now I'm like, wow, that was an answer right there.
That was the answer. I'm real passionate,
I
like all
see.
of us here, right? We're
Yeah.
passionate about health, equity, and access. I'm a Black woman and I have a son. I'm raising a young Black man in this
Right.
world. And I think
Right.
about all of the ways that he is going to have to learn how to be healthy and thrive in the world. And it's hard, right? And so I think when you become a parent, especially, you recognize all of the gaps that you have to shore up in yourself, because now you have to teach someone else how to do this. And that is especially true navigating this work as a social worker, working at
Yeah.
Child and Family Services. My organization exists in the spaces where um, where people usually don't have answers, right? Where it's easy to get lost and confused. If you are struggling with a mental health condition, or your child has a psychiatric diagnosis, or your family feels like it's falling apart and you have no idea how to resolve these issues, that's where my organization steps in. And so I see these issues in the staff who are doing this work. And it's like, how do you teach this to people who generationally don't have access to this information?
Yeah.
How do you push this along?
I think a lot of it is rooted in like what you were saying and how you were defining it. So on a previous episode, make sure y'all check and go back in the archives. On the previous episode with my good friend Trevor, who's an RN, we were talking about his experience in the ER and just how folks don't know what questions to ask. Folks don't feel comfortable asking questions. And we were talking about like the power dynamic of like, do I even feel comfortable? Like, I'm sick. I don't know what's going on with me. I came here and just submitted my health to you. Hey, look, you the doctor, you the expert, you know more than I know. Why would I question you? Why would I ask a question? Why would I challenge you? And so I think that kind of, when you're in poverty or when you're struggling or you're in an oppressed, like, you don't have time or the wherewithal to think, how many trees are in my community?
Mhm.
What's the impact that this expressway in my backyard having on me? Like, cause you're just thinking about so many other things. You only have so much bandwidth that you can like think about and manage. And so much of that is getting taken up with just surviving, that you can't move to the place of thriving. So I really liked how you explained that, because it's people don't have time to think certain thoughts. And
Mm,
that's one of the things that like I'm passionate about whenever I'm facilitating a group or a conversation is I want people to think a thought they never thought before and then sit with that, because like that's how you move things forward, you know?
yeah.
So LuAnne, over to you. And still the same question about this concept of health. What does it look like, and health equity? What is health equity? What does health equity look like?
So I love show and tell. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. All right, I'm gonna
Okay,
read it to you, but it's all different shoes. Wait, let me see if I can get in the camera.
I can
Mhm.
kind of see it. I
I
see a
know this
Timberland on
graphic.
there.
All right,
Yeah.
so it says equality is everyone getting a pair of shoes. Diversity is everyone wearing a different type of shoe. Equity is everyone getting a pair of shoes that fits them. Accessibility is having shoes or alternatives that feel comfortable. Inclusion is feeling respected and valued whether you are wearing shoes or not. And belonging is showing up with or without shoes and without fear of judgment. I just love this. One of my staff found this and gave it to me.
Wow.
So, yeah, for equity and Yvonne obviously explained it really well. And, we're always looking at it with our clients because, it's been shown that, especially with the maternal mortality, that one of the reasons that it occurs with Black women is because there isn't health equity, and it happens for a lot of reasons. One is implicit bias, and I'm a nurse. I'm an OB nurse, and nobody goes into healthcare wanting to be biased. You want to go into healthcare because you want to help people, but you not having the lived experience of our clients or your patients, you're going to have a natural bias. It's just going to happen. So I think with us, we're always out there trying to ensure that our moms, that we teach them how to advocate for themselves, but especially initially when they're really, really vulnerable, we advocate for them. And that can be, we go to their appointments with them and have them put their questions down, translating for our Hispanic moms.
Mm-hmm.
We teach them about when they go into the hospital and, their birth plan, and that they want to breastfeed and they don't want the baby to get formula. And, we've done things like give them little cards to give to the nurse that they can put in the bassinet. I'm a breastfed baby, those kind of things. Because a lot of our moms have never been taught how to advocate for themselves. And, ultimately, we want to hold their hand for a while, but ultimately our goal is to get them to advocate for themselves. So the health equity is really important. We've done listening sessions. We're actually ready to do another one with the Department of Health. But I remember hearing a couple of years ago when we did it, just the way they felt they were treated by their provider or by the nurse, or the assumptions that were made. We actually watched the movie Aftershock. Sherman, I don't know if you've watched it. You probably
I
should watch
haven't.
it as a dad, but
Okay.
it's a documentary. It's on Hulu actually, but it talks about it. It's through the eyes of two dads who lost their partners, and then the mom of one of the moms that passed away, one during birth, one after. And they talked about how no one was listening to them. It's like Serena Williams. Okay, here you have a woman who's smart, has the resources, intelligent,
She's the
and
GOAT.
yeah, and she
Literally the greatest athlete of all time.
right, and she knew she had an embolus, and no one was listening to her. So those are the kind of comments we get in this movie. They talked about, they walk in, the dads walk in, and they're like, "Okay, are you the baby daddy?" They were married. The one couple was married. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's that constant, like, reiteration that is so old school that doesn't. So they feel like, they're not listened to, and there's myths out there. I mean, healthcare providers have myths about Black women. They don't feel pain because their skin is thicker, that they're all hysterical. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
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 So that's the kind of stuff that we need to get to the root of, because, ultimately we want every mom to have obviously a very healthy delivery with a healthy baby, but we also want them to be treated like a human being, and like every
Absolutely.
other person that walks in there, and not to assume that, they're drug using, that this man with her is not her husband, that whatever it is. And you got to do that through education. You have to do that with the providers. And most providers are willing to learn. It's just, again, they don't have the experience. And the smart ones are the ones who recognize they don't have the experience and are open to it. So I think that's how we work with, even with the dads, Sherman. I mean, we talk a lot of times about with the dads, they're kind of the invisible parent. You go into the pediatrician office and there's one chair for the mom.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's the first thing I look for now. How many chairs are in?
Yeah.
How many chairs are there? And
Yeah.
and that sends a message to the dads as well.
Right.
Like you're not important enough to have a seat here, even
Yeah.
though
Yeah.
the research that when Antoine and you guys were looking at stuff that actually Black dads especially do a lot of the physical care for their kids. They do a lot of the diapering, a lot of running to get them to school.
Yep.
So that's what I got to say about it.
And
Awesome.
that's really interesting too, because, we talk about how many moms are subject to postpartum depression, and it's something like 20 to 30% of reported cases, but 1 in 7 dads get postpartum depression too.
Right.
And we, we don't talk about that. And how many, Black man's mental health is on the stage, is front and center. And for us to forget this really big part of a man's life once he becomes a parent, and that he too can become subject to postpartum depression, and that there's treatment for it, and that you can get help for it, and that other men are experiencing it, it's not something that we're talking about. So when you say, like, this notion that we're saying to Black dads, to dads, all dads, and especially Black dads, that you are not important enough to have a seat here, that is both proverbially and literally. You do not have a seat at the table. And how do we shift that?
And you're making me think about when I just went to the doctors with my daughter for her checkup, and they had 2 chairs. I peeped it, but when the provider came in, well, I think it was like the intern or resident or somebody. They came in. It was a younger dude, and like he was super engaging with like all 3 of us. Was talking to us, and I was like, "All right, cool, young dude." Like they was like, "We can't do her physical right now at the front desk." And he was like, "I'll just do the physical questions right now." So he was just, because they wanted us to make another appointment, and he was just really like accommodating us and was like, "I don't see why we can't do it." And I was like, "I like the way like you do business." Then when the actual doctor, when she came in, she was cool with like my daughter and with my daughter's mom, but like this woman didn't look at me. And I'm like, is there like a cultural thing? Is there like a gender dot? Because I also understand that a lot of our medical professionals are not American born citizens. A lot of our medical professionals come from different cultures and backgrounds where there are strong gender roles and gender dynamics, and potentially having a conversation with the male, whether it's the father of your patient, might be inappropriate or disrespectful. The one thing that I know is that I don't know. So like I don't know what this person's culture or background is. So I'm sitting there like trying not to get upset, like just giving the benefit of the doubt. Like then, because my daughter's mom is Dominican, somehow, some way, all folks, because it ain't that many of them, but if somehow some folks who are Dominican, it's gonna come up in the conversation, and then they're gonna relate on being Dominican. And somehow it came up, and then the doctor, she was like, "Well, I'm Dominican," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then like all of like the walls kind of like came down a little bit. She started looking at me more, and I was like, maybe she just wasn't comfortable in general. Maybe she just kind of had a bad day. The only thing I kept thinking was like, give this lady the benefit of the doubt. Give her the benefit of the doubt, because I'm aware of like how men get treated in the system. Like I'm always on edge, like, yep, there it is, there it is. It's almost like racism as a Black person. It's like you walk around every day like, oh, nope, that was racist. Oh, nope, that's racist. And it's like, maybe this person just wasn't paying attention this time. And so I think that's the space that I'm trying to sit in. I think just specifically because my work is centered around like men and fathers. We do have the men's barbershop talk series that the folks over there at Buffalo Prenatal are partners with. So make sure you check us out. They're going to be every other Monday at the Tri-Main. The information is online. So depending on when you're watching this, that might determine which Monday, whether it's this upcoming Monday or the next Monday. But we look forward to seeing you. We have the schedule out from now until September of 2024. So yeah, I definitely love the direction that this conversation went to. But I also just want to know, like, what are like the true impacts and true like goals, like in a perfect world. So when I was working in juvenile detention, I would always tell the young people, like, man, I'm trying to work myself out of a job. like the fact that I had this job like sucked. And like the fact that there's a kiddie jail where they need me to come be a kiddie CO, the fact that this exists in society sucks. So like, how do I work myself out of this job, bro? And so I think like that kind of has become the goal of every organization I show up at. Like, how am I working myself out of this job? And so I think with the work that you're doing, what in a perfect world would be like the goal that you would have accomplished? And I guess this time we can start with LuAnne, and then we'll end with.
In a perfect world, obviously we'd love for every baby to be healthy at birth. I mean, that's the pipe dream. You know, there's things obviously that happen that you can't always have that, but that's obviously the ultimate goal. And that the mom is and the family is healthy. I think besides that, because this is my usual rant on housing. In fact, I had Governor Hochul, some of her local staff came in the other day and said to me, if you could have like one thing, what would you? I said, I would like to have safe, healthy housing for all our clients. So that to me means I need like an apartment building with like 10 or 15 apartments for our moms. And it would be great for them to be together because they could support each other. And it'd be safe. I don't want to run it. I don't want to be a building manager, but we could provide care there. I want it named after me.
Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. I ride past, for real, claim it. I ride past buildings with people's name on it all the time. Ain't nothing wrong with wanting that.
I want to be LuAnne Brown Memorial Apartments. It is such an issue, and everyone knows housing is an issue, but I'm telling you, it's become such an issue for our clients. And it's, you know, it's when you think about it, it makes such a difference when you go home and you have a safe, healthy, your kids have a safe, healthy place. You're not worrying about lead or mold or rodents or that. We just had a mom the other day who had a newborn that the ceiling fell in because of the rain. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm so sick of talking about it, but that is my second big goal besides healthy babies is that we have housing, healthy housing for every mom and child and family.
I'm with you on that. I mean, just housing instability is always seeming to come up at the root of other issues. And I know as like a lucky renter, I'm just like thankful. Like I make sure I'm like, man, I hope this dude don't change his mind and like raise my rent or get shifty on me. Cause it's like, I know the anxiety it would cause me. And I'm educated and gainfully employed. So I can imagine like the clients and people who I serve, I try to tell them all the time, like, man, before I had health insurance, man, I'm a sprained ankle away from needing a caseworker myself. Like, it'll change my life. Like, I'll be homeless if I sprain my ankle. Like, and just like, I was saying that jokingly, but once I realized, like, you playing, but you serious. Yeah. Like, that's a reality. And so just thinking of the stress that it causes me, the amount of stress and cortisol is causing in a pregnant mother and then in the infant who's born with high levels of cortisol and the impacts it's going to have on how that child's brain is wired. And so I couldn't agree with you more in terms of housing and housing stability. Yep. So Yvonne, perfect world question to you.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this since you asked it, and this is it's really hard to envision a perfect world because every single thing that we do in this country is rooted in race and racism, and it's vitally important to continually acknowledge that. You know, when as a DEI professional, I often hear like, why is it always about race? Why you always got to make it about race? Because it is always about race, every single thing. And I mean, every realm of life that we exist in, from housing, like LuAnne said, to education, to healthcare, to the justice system, the quote unquote justice system, to jobs, our literal physical safety and security when we walk out the door, is rooted in race. The way our cities are constructed, and what our streets look like, and where highways exist, and our ability to have access to clean air and clean water, that is rooted in race. What our babies learn at school or don't learn, right? Because we don't have conversations the way we should about our bodies in a way that like Black and brown women grow up and understand that they can advocate for themselves when they become pregnant, right? Like we don't have those conversations. I am perimenopausal right now, and the lack of education I have about it as a woman with 2 master's degrees is bananas. And it's because we're
Never heard that term in my life.
hello, right?
I'm close with all of my women cousins, my aunties, and
now you got Google homework, right?
Yeah, what is the term again? What I gotta Google again?
Perimenopausal, right?
Perimenopausal.
It's the stage before menopause. It can last anywhere from like 1 to 7 years. It's like, it's a whole thing. We're not.
Is there a commercial for that?
There should be.
I saw like a medicine or I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
all you see about it is like on TV, like women get hot flashes and they're talking about the change, right? But
okay.
Yes. We're not having conversations about our bodies, specifically about women's bodies, right? And all of the changes that we go through at every stage of life. That's an education system problem, right? We're so and again, that's rooted in race and racism, right? We're not having these conversations. So when we talk about a perfect world, it's really hard to understand, to glean what that might look like, because America was built on race. However, having said that whole pitch, and I'm about to be real corny here, and I'm about to plug Child and Family Services again, because we did this like vision building exercise, right? And what's the vision? What's the vision for the world that we want to see happen? We want a thriving community where all people live in safety with dignity. A thriving community where every human being that you encounter lives in safety with dignity. And you get to define what that looks like for you. I live right off of Humboldt Parkway. And in a perfect world, I would walk outside and I would not see an expressway. I would see, just like every other parkway, just like Lincoln Parkway, we would be connected to the park system. That would be justice in a perfect world. Right, where we wouldn't have to worry about every time I send my kid to school, I just say a silent prayer of just like, I hope all the kids and all the teachers and every single person in that school building is safe today. I don't want another parent to ever have to say that prayer. That would be a perfect world, right? That would be like justice and dignity and safety and health equity for me. And we got a long way to go, but what are we doing if we don't believe that can happen? So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think that last part that you shared, everything that both of you shared has just been powerful. Don't tell my other guests, but this has been my favorite episode. But I think, right. But thinking about that concept, because we talked about that on the Reimagine I'm the Change podcast that I also host with Antoine and Brother Daniel Robinson and your brother Jasir. And we were talking about like us as men and just our generation and what our responsibility is, and like how we have appreciation for the folks who came before us because we're running on paved roads like that was gravel, that was dirt. And so like they had the dirt road that they turned to gravel that like maybe we're paving. And so like our kids can run and maybe their kids can fly on. And so I think, I forget which brother said it, but he was like, yes, I agree with you. However, you got to understand the people who came before us, they thought they were flying. They thought that they were on the paved road. they didn't know that they were laying the gravel. And I was like, oh, I needed that perspective, because I'm a firm believer that, like, Lord willing, based off stats, if I'm lucky, I might get 70 to 80 years here to run this race, right? And so, like, what can I change? What foundation am I going to lay? Am I laying gravel? Am I laying pavement? Like, am I digging up new dirt road? Like, what is my task with these 70 to 80, maybe 90 years, hopefully, that I get to run my race? Yeah. And so just understanding that, like, to my ancestors, they probably like, ooh, that boy's flying. And I'm like, thank you for, like, laying the pavement for me to fly on. And to these young people, I'm like, I gotta lay some gravel for them at least. And so I think, like, that's the mentality that is helping me stay in the work and not burn myself out. Thinking like, oh, this is overwhelming and I'm not gonna change racism in my lifetime. Like, I could try, then maybe the next generation, because I know we got history, so we've seen progress. People have decided to run their race for as long as they can, and they made progress. So the best thing I can do is run my race while it's my turn to have the baton. And so we've been having a fruitful conversation. I do want to begin to kind of like wrap things up and land the proverbial plane. So what I would like for y'all to do is really just share how folks can get more involved and support the work that you're doing, because I think the issue in our community is, and why a lot of organizations are moving to support podcasts and platforms like this, is like we're competing for the hearts and minds of our clients and community members. And unfortunately, I think all people, regardless of race, gender, class, background, education levels, folks will all rather be entertained instead of educated, just because entertainment feels good.
Yes.
Yep.
And so I think we're competing with the entertainment. And so, like, we have to somehow become infotainment, right? And folks like LuAnne, there needs to be some young person who grows up and says, I kind of want to be like LuAnne when I grow up. There needs to be some young person who sees, they got to be, that sees Yvonne and says, you know what? I could be like her when I grow up because I seen her. And I think this is the mission and goal behind me pulling out cameras and microphones. I had a mentor that I saw at 16. I was like, I want to be like this black man. And his only job is helping my little black behind. And every time I get in trouble, he show up. And he got a nice car, he got nice clothes, and he the happiest black man I know. I want to be like you when I grow up. But I needed to see him in order to know that I could be him. And thank God I met him at 15. And so I understand, like, folks got to see Yvonne, folks got to see LuAnne. So we're going to go ahead and start with LuAnne again. So just tell us, how can folks see you, get in with you, tap in with you, and support the work that you and the organization are doing? How can you support?
Well, there's always a lot of ways. Money, because we are 95% grant funded. So a lot of things that, we need to buy. We buy a lot of mattresses and box springs for our moms because we find them laying on the floor when they're 8 months pregnant. So certainly donations. We have our big fundraiser coming up July 24th, Great Baby Beginnings. That's at the Foundry. And that's, dinner and drinks. And we also give out some awards to people that work in this area. And we have some of our clients speak, which is always the most impactful. Volunteering, we're always looking for volunteers because, and Yvonne can testify to this, grants do not pay for marketing people, for social media people. So I have one part-time person that does social media, events, fundraising, and is also my board of directors contact. So we're always looking for volunteers to help with, like we're every other nonprofit. We just worked the Luke Combs concert, okay? And I had 11 lovely M&T volunteers, and it was great because they came out and M&T pays them to work on the day. So we have events like that. We also take donations of, new and gently used infant clothing, toys, maternity clothes for moms, as well as, because we talk about the housing. So we have the mom that's either in a domestic violence situation that we have to get her out of, is homeless, or is in an unhealthy health place to live. So we need to get them out. And what do we need? We need furniture. We need basic stuff. So we luckily get people that, especially during COVID when everyone was cleaning, kitchen tables, dressers, all those kind of things we need. Housewares. Because usually a lot of times we're starting them off with nothing. So anything like that. We just started a junior ambassador group, which is a group of like college young professional people to try to get them interested in volunteering, being on boards. And they just actually, we're doing our first event Saturday. We're doing a Mother's Day walk at Delaware Park. So there's plenty of opportunity. We will find something for you.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like you got a lot going on. And it sounds like you can also use a lot of support. And so if you have any of those resources out there, if you're listening out there on the internets, make sure you get in with LuAnne and everything that's going on there at BPPN. If you have, if you're a property manager, one of these landowners, real estate developers that's out here in the community with a heart and with a conscience, get in with LuAnne, and maybe you might be the blessing that she's looking for, and y'all can do business together. I think there's an opportunity. My mentor taught me to be a social entrepreneur. So you help put food on your table by helping people get food on theirs, and you don't eat unless they eat. And so like that's always been the mentality and approach. And so if you got it, figure out how to collaborate. So thank you for that, LuAnne. Yvonne, so you have a lot of stuff going on too. So how can folks get in with you and support the work that you're doing over at OCFS, right?
Child and Family Services.
Child and Family Services. Child and Family Services.
Not OCFS, and we are not CPS. We are not CPS. Okay.
That's the tagline.
Child and Family Services. CPS. We not CPS. Okay.
Amen.
So hear that, know that. Okay. We have just an incredible wealth of programs, and I'm not going to rattle off the entire list, but there are several ways that you can get involved in our work. The first way is donate. Just like LuAnne said, donate. Go to our website at cfsbny.org. You can also go to LuAnne's website, right? Go ahead. And it's not... Is it
BPPN.org? I forgot to say that. Thank you, Yvonne.
We plug in everybody today, right?
That's right.
And it's not those, we don't need, when we say donate, people get nervous, like I don't have enough, I can't do it. And LuAnne will testify to the fact that it's not $100 or $1,000 donations. Those are wonderful, and we want those too. But if you got $1, $2, $5, $10, right, that you want to give to our organization, those donations are just as meaningful, are just as impactful, are just as important, so you can donate. The second thing you could do is get involved with our organization. So we oversee a foster care program. If we desperately need foster parents of all races and creeds and colors. But if you especially are a Black or brown person, and you have extra love in your home, and you feel a calling on your heart to get involved, to become a foster parent, you need to reach out to us. There are classes that we have. There are things that we can do to support you as you honor this calling on your heart. So you can call 716-842-2750 and get involved.
One more time.
716-842-2750. Call us if you're interested in becoming a foster parent. We want you. We need you. We also have a number of volunteer opportunities across our residential program. We also oversee the only licensed facility in Erie County for domestic violence shelter. At Haven House. So if there is something you want to donate, whether it's a durable good, or whether it's money, or whether you want to donate some time or some energy, reach out to us at that same number, 716-842-2750. There are so many ways that we want you to get involved, and we're really looking for the involvement of our community, of us. This is a service that we are benefiting from too. So we want to see your faces. We want to get your calls, and we want those $1, $2, $5, and $10 donations. And I know LuAnne would.
I really thank you. Thank both of y'all for y'all time having this conversation with me. So the folks, we're gonna break the fourth wall and talk to the audience. So, full disclosure, like I didn't feel good at all today, but I swear, like I feel great today. Like we could have did this, and by the way I feel now, this was like the last thing on my agenda for today. But like, I'm ready to go now. I ain't need to come home. So I really appreciate y'all for shedding some light into my day, because this is, like, we were talking about some very challenging things. But I think the passion, the knowledge that both of you women have, I think it shines through. And I think that's the only way that we can kind of have these difficult conversations and somehow find ways and times to smile and laugh. And I think that's important in this work. And so when you're talking about donating, I forgot who I got this from, because I like to give credit when I take stuff from folks, but it was the 3 T's. And so, like, folks don't always have a lot of money, like you said. And even if you don't have money, the 3 T's, you donate your time. So maybe you're retired. Maybe I know an individual who was out on disability and was like, hey, I can't lift nothing, but I can attend the meetings. I don't want to sit at home all day. So if you're on disability and want to get involved in the community, don't lift nothing. Come here, sit down, and engage in the conversation that you wasn't able to engage in before. Donate your time. If you're retired, if whatever the case may be, if you have a alternate schedule, if you're working overnights and got time during the day, come show up for something before you work your shift. Like, manage your time as best as possible to be able to show up, be active and engaged. Donate your time. If you have talent and ability, I know that's how I got started off in videography and content creation. I do it professionally now, but I started off donating my time and my talent because this was something that I was passionate about, something that I wanted to learn more about, and I needed an opportunity to engage and practice. So I donated my time and my talent to the community. This is the talent that I have. Yes, I'm a social entrepreneur, and I know National Grid doesn't accept love and respect payments, but there are times where I volunteer with my talent in community when necessary. I don't get paid for everything, and so I think we have to reduce some of that transactional nature in our community. So just understanding that as well, and then your treasure. So like that's the end. So if you got that dollar, if you got the 50 cents, if you got $100, if your taxes came, if you pay your tithes, right? I think this is also a form of tithing, right? If you don't appreciate what your church or what your spiritual religious organization is doing with your donations, that don't mean stop tithing. Tithe elsewhere. God recognize it. So just wanting to get folks to be creative with how they can show up and support the wonderful work that people such as yourselves, LuAnne and Yvonne, are doing in our community. Because again, folks are spending their time being entertained instead of getting involved. And I'm guilty of that as well, which is why we're trying to do this form of infotainment. So is there anything else that y'all want to leave the folks with? Shout out your social medias one more time before we wrap up.
CFSBNY.org and 716-842-2750 for Child and Family Services. And I just want to leave this last quote because this was right on my heart, and then I'm gonna let LuAnne have it. Is that love is building a future for your children that you will never make it to see. So really, us investing in this work right now, we might not see the full benefit of it, and that's okay, but we're carrying this work forward, and you need joy to sustain that work. So it's okay to be entertained, right? While you're doing the work, while you're carrying forward, you need joy to sustain resistance, and that's okay too. I'm gonna pass it to
joy. Yes, I like that. Joy.
I will just, I like that quote. Can't say anything better than that. I'll give you our number, which is 716-884-6711. And Sherman, make sure Yvonne doesn't have the microphone like she tries to stay. Her and I are Her and I were partners on a TV show, and they email us after and go, "Did one of you guys walk out with the microphone?"
Absolutely.
I'm like,
Microphone.
"You're foolish. How could you walk out with a microphone?" She walked.
I left with it. Yes, I did.
Oh, so good thing we virtual because she
Yes.
might have walked off with one of these.
Accident.
Maybe that's your calling. Both of you are very natural on camera.
We're like,
Might be your calling.
We're going to say Sherman inspired it.
Yeah. I think y'all need a podcast too. You know, let folks see y'all in the world. It's a great idea. If you need us to produce it, we produce. So you just let us know.
Thank you, Sherman.
Thanks, Sherman.
Of course. Thank you all. And make sure you folks get in the comments and make sure that y'all engage with us. Make sure you leave a comment about whatever inspired you. Make sure that you click the like button. Make sure that you subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and share this conversation with somebody who could take value from it the same way that you did. I am Sherman Webb-Middlebrooks, a lifelong Buffalo resident, full-time Black man, men's health project manager at the Buffalo Center for Health Equity. And on behalf of Yvonne and LuAnne, in the words of my hero, the great Jerry Springer, y'all take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.